Imagine a forest floor after a gentle rain. Under the layer of fallen leaves and decomposing bark, a vast unseen network awakens. Not roots, not worms, but mycelium, the thread-like structures of fungi. It stretches, branches, connects, a silent communication system, miles wide, humming with signals. Now imagine this natural network, thinking, not in metaphors, not as poetry, but literally thinking, processing information, storing memories, learning from experience. This isn't the opening of a science fiction novel. It's the cutting edge of real-world science. And the implications could be revolutionary. For over half a century, computers have relied on silicon. It's what powers your phone, your laptop, even the Mars rovers. But silicon has limits. It's brittle. It's energy hungry. It can't heal itself. And as we push toward the edges of artificial intelligence, those limits begin to crack. Enter the mushroom. Fungi, especially their root-like mycelium networks, have emerged as serious contenders in the race for neuromorphic computing, systems that mimic how the human brain works. To understand why, we need to revisit how brains function. Unlike traditional computers that process information in linear, binary sequences, the human brain works in a massively parallel, dynamic way. Neurons fire, synapses adapt, and over time, patterns emerge. Memory isn't stored in a file. It's encoded in the strength of connections. Learning isn't a command. It's a process of change. Scientists have spent decades trying to replicate this in machines. And then they turn to fungi. Mycelium is a dense web of hyphae, microscopic tubes that grow, interconnect, and adapt to their surroundings. In the wild, they form vast communication networks among trees, exchanging chemical messages, rerouting resources, even defending against threats. But recently, researchers discovered something even more astonishing. These fungal networks transmit electrical impulses. Slow, yes, but patterned. Spikes, waves, echoes of neuron-like behavior. In a 2021 study, scientists measured the electrical activity of mycelial networks and found that they exhibited spiking behaviors similar to brain cells. Not only that, they showed signal propagation and variability depending on external stimuli. In simple terms, when you touch, feed, or stress the fungus, it responds, it learns, and over time, it remembers. This opened the door to a wild new idea, using living fungal networks as biochips, neuromorphic processes that do not just simulate the brain, but behave like one. In controlled experiments, researchers inserted electrodes into slabs of living mycelium. They sent in inputs, light, temperature changes, chemicals, and measured the responses. Over time, the patterns changed. The mycelium adapted. When exposed to repeated stimuli, the electrical responses grew stronger or faster, showing potential for memory formation. In other words, the fungus was learning. But this wasn't just about mimicry. The potential advantages over silicon were staggering. First, energy. Fungal networks require orders of magnitude less power than traditional chips. They don't need fans, cooling systems, or large batteries. They operate at ambient temperatures, powered by minimal nutrients. Second, self-growth. Unlike silicon, which must be etched and fabricated in expensive, resource-intensive factories, mycelium grows itself. You feed it, it expands. It creates new pathways, connects new nodes, heals damage. Third, sustainability. Mycelium is biodegradable. It doesn't require toxic chemicals or rare earth metals. A single petri dish could birth a new generation of low-cost, green computing platforms. And finally, resilience. Silicon is fragile. One burnt circuit and a chip dies. But fungal systems, living systems, are flexible. When damaged, they reroute. Like a brain after trauma, they regenerate. Already, engineers are prototyping mycelium-based logic gates, the fundamental building blocks of computation. They're slow, but they're real. Others are developing fungal interfaces that can connect with sensors and actuators. Imagine a robot with a brain that grows, repairs, and rewires itself, powered not by electricity alone, but by biology. This shift also forces us to rethink what intelligence really is. If a fungus can process information, if it can remember patterns, if it can learn from its environment, then is it intelligent? And if we build AI systems from these living networks, will they behave more like us? Will they be more creative, more adaptive, more alive? There's still a long way to go. Mycelium biochips are in their infancy. They process signals slowly, measured in seconds, not nanoseconds. Scaling them up will require new materials, new architectures, even new programming languages. Because how do you program a living organism? You don't write lines of code. You shape environments. You provide stimuli. You train the system, like a brain. And that may be the biggest breakthrough of all. We're not just creating new machines. We're cultivating a new form of intelligence, one that grows instead of being built, one that learns like a child, not a calculator, one that may one day match or even surpass the flexibility of the human brain. Across the world, research labs are experimenting with different fungal species. Some mycelia grow faster. Others exhibit stronger electrical signals. A few even demonstrate oscillatory activity that resembles EEG brainwaves. These aren't isolated curiosities. They're the seeds of a paradigm shift. A future where computers are not carved from sand, but grown from spores. A future where AI is no longer alien, but organic. A future where your next device might have roots. Not metaphorically, literally, because buried beneath our feet is a living, thinking network. A biochip designed not by humans, but by evolution, and it's just beginning to wake up.